Hey everyone, welcome back to Inside Gaming. Come on in, the water's warm, and that's probably because somebody might have peed. Konami is a pretty seasoned developer, but over the years they seem to have been going through the ringer with a bad breakup and bad games that set the precedent that maybe they're but a shell of the former company.
A big shell, that's a reference to Metal Gear Solid 2. Not very long ago, Konami had seen some real successes with their Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid franchises, both mainstays in their lineup, but we'll be talking about the latter first. Amir, take it away.
Thank you, I will take it away. Many people look back on the Metal Gear Solid series fondly, the stealth game that had you experience real, tactical espionage action.
The original Metal Gear was released on the MSX2 home computer in Japan back on July 13th, 1987, later ported to the Famicom and NES on December 22nd of the same year.
All that is true, but we are not going to be talking about those. We're going to fast forward to the MGS series because, well, let's be honest, it's a little bit more relevant.
And cooler.
Yes. From when the first entry released on the PlayStation 1 back on September 3rd of 1998, you filled the shoes of Solid Snake, who was tasked with infiltrating Shadow Moses, a nuclear weapons disposal facility, and stopping Foxhound from deploying their big boy Metal Gear Rex.
Yeah, the game received critical acclaim and a Metacritic score of 94, which would push the series forward as a pinnacle of stealth games, and would even go on to receive a remake on the Nintendo GameCube titled Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes in 2004.
A remake to surpass Metal Gear.
So 3 years after the release of the PS1 version, a sequel would be born from the loins of Kojima and Konami titled Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, which would be slapped onto Sony's next console, the gorgeous PlayStation 2. This game is one of my favorites because it did a nice bait and switch that nobody saw coming.
Oh, bait and switch it did. Many fans expected to be playing as Solid Snake again, and the marketing materials at the time would intentionally lead people to believe that was the case. However, when the game was released on November 13th, 2001, that wasn't entirely the case, right, Zach?
Nope. Yeah, the game opened with you playing as Solid Snake, but only during the prologue, which you would later switch to a character known as Raiden, the long-haired pretty boy who did naked cartwheels. Who can forget?
His gooch, his taint is like ingrained in my mind. Anyway, Metal Gear Solid 2 is one of the first games that really pushed an inward-looking, philosophical, we live in a society narrative, having the game's closing moments making the player wonder if anything is real. Truly a great narrative to explore.
I'm pregnant.
What?
Really good touch on Kojima's part to have a similar like messing with real world peripherals moment where it was like it would read your memory card.
Yeah.
And then tell you how long you've been playing, like to be like, get out of the simulation.
What are you talking about?
Kind of like a callback to the Psycho Mantis stuff in the first game.
Kind of like connects that bridge. Oh, maybe that's, whoa.
So 3 years after that, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater would drop on the PlayStation 2. That was a lot of numbers. Pushing the series even further, but in the past.
This game did things a tad bit differently in terms of narrative. MGS 1 and 2 felt like a Mission Impossible or Minority Report in game form, whereas MGS 3 felt more like a cheesy 007 movie.
Yeah, many people consider Metal Gear Solid 3 to be one of the greatest games of all time, which I can't help to agree with. Still not as good as Metal Gear Solid 2 in my opinion, but that's just personal preference. The deep storytelling in the form of a prequel was at the time and still is honestly just some next level.
Yeah, you played as Naked Snake, also known as Big Boss, taking place during the Cold War of 1964. Who could forget? Your mission is to rescue a Soviet scientist who is developing a Metal Gear known as Shagohod. The narrative twists and turns and has some of the greatest boss battles of all time.
The trilogy was an amazing collection of what video games could do in terms of storytelling. In fact, that's just what it was supposed to be, a trilogy. The series was meant to end after Snake Eater, but due to high demand, Kojima was pressured to start development on Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots.
Released on the PlayStation 3 on June 12th of 2008, MGS4 actually received universal acclaim for being technically flawless. That is a hell of a description.
This game did shift gears for the series a bit though, and had you playing as a prematurely aged Solid Snake who embarks on his last mission. This was technically true since the follow-up would go back to the past, back to the 80s.
The 80s. MGS5, The Phantom Pain, had you in the saddle as Punished Venom Snake, taking place 9 years after Ground Zeroes, which was essentially a tech demo you had to pay for. How long was Ground Zeroes? Wasn't it like
an hour? I don't know.
Yeah, it was like an hour. You had to pay for that game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We don't get free rides here on the Kojima train, no. Metal Gear Solid 5 went back to the same original gameplay style as the original trilogy, but this time traversing an open world and selecting missions to complete instead of the linear narrative seen in previous entries.
The game was amazing, but was met with a bad taste in the mouth of fans because of a public beef between Hideo Kojima and Konami.
Rika Muranaka, who worked on the Metal Gear franchise as a composer, spilled the metaphorical tea in an interview with The Kodak as to what happened during the tail end of Metal Gear Solid 5's development.
Yeah, she went on to say that the main reason for the falling out, at least in her opinion, is that Kojima Kojima gets paid a salary and doesn't make any profit share on the game. He gets paid a certain amount no matter what, and he was spending so much money and delaying the project and adding all these features and making sure the game was the biggest and best thing it could be. And Konami wasn't happy with that because delaying has no effect on him. He was spending the budget on this and that and upgrading the Fox engine and then delaying further because the engine wasn't ready, and Konami wasn't happy with that because he gets a salary and he takes a more traditional Japanese man approach by not taking a profit share. So in doing that, he gets a little more than a game creator would, but doesn't take bonuses from the game selling well.
Wow. God, you need a bag? Tortured artist Kojima, just taking all his time. His desk is such a mess, you'd never know it.
Cutting his finger off and using it for stamps.
So this resulted in Konami giving Kojima the proverbial boot, removing his name from the box art of the game and bastardizing a series with the following entry titled Metal Gear Survive.
What?
Metal Gear Survive was an online survival tower defense game that had you fighting, get this, zombies.
In Metal Gear Solid?
Yes, zombies in Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, they're little crystal, little red rocket dog penis head things.
Thanks for that visual.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, this shows just how low Konami was willing to go to make back some of that sweet cash that Kojima had been hemorrhaging spending for Metal Gear Solid 5, which was a whopping $80 million, which for comparison, that's more than the Hunger Games budget.
Yeah.
Which really, I guess, does make sense considering games have kind of become a more profitable entertainment franchise now than even the film industry, but still, I mean, that's a very high budget movie, and to squander, piss all that away on a
Metal Gear Solid game.
like a game that was not completed, to be clear.
Right. Yeah. Of course, Kojima would go on to make Death Stranding as his first game without Konami, which did pretty well and received critical acclaim. Not saying that the whole Konami debacle didn't give Kojima a nice little push, but I think it holds its own merit as a good game.
All it takes is a little push.
So now that Kojima is no longer with Konami, what does this mean for the future of the company? Well, Konami isn't all about Kojima, even though it may seem that way. You think Konami, you think Kojima, like peaches and cream. However, what about Konami's other titles that are not Metal Gear? Yes, those do exist, yeah.
It's no secret that the other titles aren't exactly going to carry the company and have them be regarded as gods of gaming. I am a god of gaming.
It's not looking too good, but we'd be remiss to not mention Konami's other big franchise, Contra. Who can forget Contra? Contra was a popular game back in the late 80s and early 90s, made popular by patrons at their local arcades, throwing quarters into Konami's machine, just not...
Did you suck on your quarters or you put them in the machine?
I give him a little kiss.
Talking like Quan Chi me in the today. Well, they recently released Contra Road Corps, a new entry in a pretty beloved franchise, but I don't know what the hell they were thinking. It is nothing like the classics and received overwhelming negative reviews upon release, changing what made Contra, well, Contra.
One could say it was controversial. Yeah, everybody remembers how they canned Silent Hills because Kojima was tied to it and then subsequently threw salt in the wound by making Silent Hill a pachinko machine.
That was one of the biggest spit in the eyes a game dev could do to someone who worked as hard as Kojima, abruptly canceling Silent Hills in April of 2015, even after the evident popularity of PT, the playable teaser for the game.
A month later, Konami CEO Hideki Hayakawa would go on to say that their big focus moving forward will be mobile and not AAA games, adding, "Mobile is where the future of gaming lies." Well, anyways, back to those previously mentioned pachinko machines and salted wounds. Remember how we said that Metal Gear Solid 3 was one of the best games of all time? Konami knew that and decided to create a gorgeous remake for the game and had everyone excited about revisiting the iconic entry in the series, but later showcased that it was a pachinko machine. Ooh.
Ouch. Well, I guess I'm going to Japan. Gamble my life savings away. You'd like that, wouldn't you, Konami? You'd like me to throw my hard-earned money in your slots.
Konami's definitely also getting their money's worth though. In a report from 2017, they show that Konami's profits have increased by almost 230% ever since they streamlined their IPs with their pachinko machines. Holy.
They're pretty popular in Japan. I mean, this could very well be the way Konami wants to spend its resources as a publisher and a developer. However, recently, a credible leaker who we've mentioned in the past, a Static Gamer, made a tweet about Konami working on 2 new Silent Hill games.
Yeah, he said there is a couple new Silent Hill games in the works. Konami about 2 years ago reached out to various developers to pitch ideas for 2 Silent Hill games. One a soft reboot of the franchise, and the other an episodic, kind of Telltale Until Dawn style to go along with the reboot.
As we've mentioned in the past, a Static Gamer has gotten stuff correct effect, especially surrounding the Resident Evil 3 remake and the multiplayer component Resident Evil Resistance, Konami would later make a statement regarding the franchise saying, "We cannot share anything at this point, but we are listening to customer feedback and considering ways to provide the next title."
Yeah, we haven't received a full-length Silent Hill game since Silent Hill Downpour in 2012, which received pretty mixed reviews overall. Silent Hills was looking to be a grandiose step in the right direction with its photorealistic visuals and haunting setting. The abrupt cancellation made the demo all the more valuable, causing people to sell their PS4s with PT installed for a marked up price.
This kind of reminds me of the whole like Flappy Bird craze. You remember when people were like selling iPhone that had Flappy Bird installed? It was like when the developer went like crazy. Did he kill himself? Is that what happened? Remembering that wrong?
God, that went to 11. No, as far as I remember, he pulled it off the App Store.
Right.
Because people were like obsessed with it or something to a point where they were like, it was like a detriment to them, and he was like, I didn't make this game to be like
ruin
plague on society. Yeah, so.
I don't care what my mom thinks.
Even more recently, PT was hacked to allow players to explore the town and streets area previously unseen. The hype is still alive and well, so now's a better time than ever to revive the Silent Hill franchise and use that as a crutch, since Konami no longer has Metal Gear to rely on. Oh.
As mentioned earlier, Konami said they were going the mobile gaming route back in 2015. Well, looks like they changed gears according to European President Masami Seiso, saying, "Even with new platforms coming out, we believe high-end consoles games are most important." Man, talk about a change of heart.
Console, mobile console. Needless to say, if the leaks and rumors are correct, well, it's great news. Yeah, if Konami can pull it off, they're not exactly in good graces with the public after the aforementioned Kojima beef and getting booed at E3. Who can forget that?
Hideo Kojima is not here with us tonight, and I want to tell you a little bit about that. It's
Well, we'll just have to wait and see what happens, because new Silent Hill game would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, totally. I think it's Resident Evil is making that resurgence, right? And I feel like a lot of people are very into horror games again, and I think that now is the perfect time for Silent Hill to kind of like, put their balls on the table a little bit. Be like, hey, look, we're still here.
It's no secret that Death Stranding has gotten some mixed reviews.
What? No way, yeah. The new game from legendary Hideo Kojima has won praise from some for its unorthodox style, but others have criticized it as being boring with a story that is ham-handedly written.
Yeah, it's definitely a very divisive game, but Kojima has an explanation for that criticism. Americans just don't get it.